Hello everyone, welcome back on the AgriAdventures YouTube channel. Today I would like to invite you to the Caesus and Vinum event that's been held on the AgriAdventures virtual room and platform the 27th November 2020. This video will be made with the footage from the event and partially new made contents. I hope that you enjoy. So welcome to the Caesus and Vinum experience. It was held on the AgriAdventures platform on the 27th November 2020. This is the introduction of the experience, and it was designed to explain what was going to happen. First of all, why this experience was designed for me. It lasted 3 months, and it was designed as tribute to my own country, which is Italy. I've designed this opportunity to showcase some of products that are landing on the Australian market. They're looking to be here in the Australian market. And why? Because obviously doing so, it was beneficial for the industry over there that have been suffering from the lockdowns, the COVID-19. Obviously, that is connected with the Week of the Italian Cuisine that was promoted from the Italian Consulate and the Italian government worldwide. What is this? This is a sensory experience. Sensory experience that was designed with the use of the technique that I learned in Italy from the Italian School of Sommelier. Use a system of agreement, competition, if you want to say, and they're based on characteristics in food and wine. Obviously, it's not required for anyone learning these skills unless you want to be a sommelier, and to give you an idea on what and how it works. So alcohol helps to clear the palate from these characteristics. If you do not have a proper balance between alcohol, tannins, and juiciness, you have problems in wine and food match. On the other way, there is for agreement. When you have a level of intensity, you want to have a similar level of intensity in food match. Also, this is a sensory experience. For this experience, especially the eyes and the hearing, they will be much more stimulated because we will have video content that generally are not shown in a restaurant. Now, where we'll be traveling today, we'll be traveling in 4 different regions: Veneto, Lombardy, Piedmont, and Sardinia. What I would like you munch a little bit on this cheese plat, and in the meantime be entertained and acknowledged from this experience. This is the order of the cheeses. So you will see there are 5 cheeses on this platter. They are starting from white skin to the wash rind. The third one, that is a semi-hard, and then to the hard one. The following one, obviously, is the blue cheese, which is the most intense. I will leave the blue cheese as last, mainly because blue cheese has the power to cover flavor from all the others. So please, play with these 3 or the 4th one, leave the blue cheese aside for the end of the experience. Now, these are the wine. We're going to have a Prosecco, Curtefranca white, then we have a Dolcetto from Piedmont, and then the last one is a Moscato from Sardinia, sweet natural wine. Before to go on, I would like to ask if the Italian Consul that is with us tonight, if would be interested to say something about this event.
Wow, yeah, that's perfect. So in the interest of everyone, I'll be brief. I know it's a very bad way to start, but thank you, Simone, for the introduction. It is such a pleasure for me to welcome you all to this digital event. And thank you, Simone and Radio Italia Uno for co-organizing this. I think that today we have to mark this day on our books because we are conquering today a new domain, the digital one. I don't think that we have ever done something like that in the past. So it's a great way to start. and I'm really, really happy about it. And I think it's a great contribution to the 5th Italian Cuisine Week in the world, which the theme of this year being Saperi e Sapori, so basically knowledge and flavors and taste. And this is exactly what we are going to do tonight. So entering a journey of knowledge and taste and learning more about produce, wine, cheeses, and the region and the history and the regional connections. So I'm really excited to start this journey with all of you. And thank you again, Simone. And well, what can I say? Let's start.
Thank you very much, Adriano. I'm really happy that you've been here. I'm really happy that you gave us this opportunity. So let's keep going. What is wine? Well, obviously wine is a grape juice with the fermentation of this juice and the use of yeast that they are producing alcohol and carbon dioxide. This juice is coming from the Vitis vinifera. The Vitis vinifera was with us for a long, long time, and it's been traveling with us from the history. So there are records of the Vitis vinifera being traveling and start since 7,000 years ago in China, that have been moving in Georgia, then in Iran, then in Greece, and with the Etruscan moved in Sicily. The Etruscan also brought over there the technique for growing the vineyards for making wine. There is a curiosity is that from the ancient Greek word, which is vinum, that was correlated with vinum, that was wine, it comes the word that we use every day in many languages, which is vinum for the Latin, vino for Italian, wine in English, and vin in French. Another curiosity that not many people know is that the Vitis vinifera has its origin in the wild Vitis vinifera sylvestre. Actually, is a plant that had been growing on the planet 2 million years ago. If you think about that, this plant have been on the planet before us. Cheeses. These are the cheeses that we'll have tonight. Latour. We have Taleggio. Latour is from Piedmont. Taleggio is from Lombardy. We have Montasio. Montasio is from Veneto, actually, and is made with cow milk. And then we have Pecorino di Moliterno, or in this case, Moliterno, that is produced in Sardinia. It is a hard cheese produced by sheep milk and a percentage of other milks. Depends where it's produced. To finish with, I want to say the Gorgonzola Piccante that is produced in Lombardy with cow milk. There is something interesting about cheeses. Let's speak about a little bit them. First of all, where milk comes from, it comes from these animals that we with us for a long time in the history of human beings. The product that we use, it's milk. That we have this product, and with this product, we make cheese. How we do it? We work with acidification. We use enzymes and temperature to create a sort of coagulation inside in the curd. So that allows us to create a net of protein inside in the curd. And depending what is the temperature and the level of acidity and the number of the enzymes, we have it harder or soft. So harder is the connection between these proteins, and stronger and harder will be the cheese. After, the way how we cut the curd increase or change the amount of water inside in cheese, and because of that you're going to have softer or harder cheese. After that, you move the curd into a container, in this case a forma, and then from that you start to do the aging. There is something interesting about the name of a cheese, which is it comes from the Indo-European language. There was quat. Quat was used to define products that were fermented. Okay, so the Latin people, so Roman people, they got the word quat and they transferred it into Caesus, and Caesus was meaning fermented food. But also they've been using the word as forma. So they were speaking about the cheese as caesus, but also as forma. Forma is coming from the Greek word formos. That means shape. So they were referring to the cheese as caesus or as forma. Then the forma word moved in French language, becoming fromage. For Romance people, it was meaning the shape of the cheese. Then from French, it moved in Italian, became formaggio. So formaggio, fromage, and forma. While obviously English people, English language, it's cheese that comes from the word caesus, and you really can see the connection. Now, I have a curiosity for you, which is there is in the Roman dialect, when you refer to a cheese, you refer to a cacio. What do you think? Maybe cacio, it's the word in between caesus and cheese. Obviously, I'm speaking about the dialect of Rome that is nowadays, not the Latin back in the days.
From the high peaks of the Alps and the Dolomites, Cortina d'Ampezzo, the high-class ski resort, is part of this region. To vineyard-cultivated plains, Lake Garda, Italy's largest lake, neighbors with Veneto, Trentino, Alto Adige and Lombardia. Even Italy's longest river, the Po River, runs through this region for a great part. The coast looks to the Orient. Venice's natural realm of expansion in the past, the Serenissima seafaring republic, is now the region's capital. Venice, with its unsurpassed enchantment, was entirely constructed on the lagoon's islets. Priceless artworks built on unstable ground stolen from the sea. Piazza San Marco in its unparalleled fascination with the elegant basilica. Palazzo Ducale, one of the greatest examples of Gothic architecture. Canale Grande, which until the past century could only be crossed by the celebrated Rialto Bridge, is the backdrop for some of Venice's most outstanding palazzi. Ca' d'Oro, a refined 15th century palace. Ca' Pesaro, a Venetian Baroque masterpiece, has now become the Modern Art Museum. One of Italy's most important universities is housed in Ca' Foscari, a magnificent 16th century palazzo. One of the most famous opera theatres in the world, La Fenice Theatre, hosts one of Italy's foremost opera seasons. Veneto's traditional craftwork is carried out in an irresistibly fascinating scenario. In Murano for glassmaking, and in Burano for the art of lace. The charming Torcello features a 7th century cathedral and a tall bell tower with a breathtaking view on the lagoon. Verona is a romantic salon, the Shakespeare's setting for Romeo and Juliet. A refined and elegant city, it features the far-famed arena, a Roman amphitheatre used for opera performances. Vicenza treasures invaluable architectural works by Andrea Palladio, such as the Olympic Theatre. Treviso, protected by its city walls, preserves important monuments, such as, for example, Palazzo del Trecento. Padova, with the superb basilica dedicated to St. Anthony. In the Scrovegni chapel, we find Giotto's unsurpassed frescoes. Further north, towards the Dolomites, Belluno. The city's most important monuments are concentrated in Piazza Duomo. On the gentle slopes of the Euganian hills, Abano Terme. Jesolo, a lovely beach resort. The regional cuisine is as wide-ranging as the territory. Bacala alla Vicentina, Vicenza-style cod, marinated veal with grapes and pumpkin flowers, sausage and mushroom quiche, and characteristic sweets. Ugly but delicious cookies, vanilla cream and grapes pie, and Verona's world-famous Pandoro. There are also many tasty cheeses such as Morlacco del Grappa, which only matures for 15 days, and Embriago cheese. Also caciotta and cold cuts. Polychrome region, cheerful, party-loving, as in the explosion of colours during Venice's Carnival, a legendary feast, the utmost representation of commedia dell'arte.
Well, here you are. We are in Veneto now. Veneto is located in the northeast of the Italian peninsula. It's a country. It's a region with no more than 5 million people living, and on the size of 19,000 kilometers square. Something really interesting, really curious is that during summertime and during touristic time, the region received more than 19 million of tourists. So the population even 5 times bigger than what it generally is. So the region was populated since the 1500 before Christ. Now, something that I would like to mention for this experience is that a lot of our traditional recipes and cuisine in Italy comes from the history of the country. And the country was made from different influences and sometimes different states and country itself. So Veneto had the Venetian Republic. The Venetian Republic was a sea republic. So it was based on commerce. Its ship, they've been traveling all over the planet. And it lasted on the planet for more than 1,100 years. One of the things correlated with this in the Italian cuisine is, for instance, the bacala alla Vicentina, if you know it. The bacala alla Vicentina is stocked, and it came into Veneto through Venice. It came into the Venetian cuisine through Venice, the republic that brought in traveling all over the planet. Obviously, stockfish is coming from Norway. It's not traditionally from Italy. Now, the wine, what we have tonight is the Prosecco Bio Asolo. Prosecco originally comes from Treviso, but now can be produced in almost 2 regions, Friuli and Veneto. In the region of Treviso, there are the 2 main crus, which are Valdobbiadene and Asolo, that they are historically the ones where Prosecco is coming from. The total production area of Prosecco goes up to 24,500 acres. And the total production is around 500 million of bottles. Just to have an idea, Prosecco produced 1/4 of the wine, the total wine produced in Australia. Just to have understand how big is Prosecco. Prosecco has a big export internationally from Italy, and it's made from a variety called Lera. The producer for tonight, it's Valdocca that is located in Valdobbiadene, even though the Prosecco that we're gonna taste together, it's from Asolo. Now, it's time to do a little bit of wine testing. So this is a fermented wine, the grape juice, it's fermented and then it became sparkly with the fermentation out to close, that they're keeping the bubbles inside. Let's have a look to the wine. So just to make sure you understand, this is not a champenoise method, it's a Charmat method, which means it doesn't have a second fermentation in bottle. On my nose, I have pineapple, a little bit of coconut, a good minerality, a bit of bread crust, if you want to say, that generally comes from the fermentation. A bit of sugar cane too, that's kind of interesting. The Glera is a semi-aromatic variety that works a lot with many different dishes. But I will be really interested to know more about Prosecco from a special guest that we have tonight. And I would like to invite him to tell something about it to us. So, Stefano, are you over there?
Hello, Simone, do you hear me?
I do, and I'm gonna do this. Perfect. Can everybody else give me a thumb up if we all see him? Okay, so thank you to be here. That's amazing. Where are you?
Thank you for inviting. I'm here in Valdobbiadene, the city of the Prosecco Superiore DOCG. Wow.
And where are you now? Because I can see that you not look like inside in a cellar door or in a winery. Where are you?
I'm in the middle of vineyards. Later, I will show you our splendid view, because it's the place where I am is the best landscape to admire the vineyards of Prosecco.
Okay, that's interesting. So, can you tell something about Valdocca to us? Because I don't know much about the company.
Yes, so Valdocca is the name of a splendid hill covered in vineyards by Glera grapes, the white grape used to make the famous Prosecco in Italy. We are located in Valdobbiadene, one of the most extraordinary and atmospheric landscape in Italy, the hilly area between Asolo and Conegliano, which has always had a particular vocation for the viticulture, and since 2019 is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Valdocca is a story of a cooperative business, a truly socially responsible enterprise founded in 1952, thanks to 129 wine growers who have never ceased to love their land, but they decide to work together to overcome the post-war period. Today, the company is representing 600 families, wine grower, with 1,000 hectares that each year harvest only by hand and transform into wine around 16 million grapes, kilos of grapes a year, for a total production of 13 million bottles. We are specialized in all kinds of Prosecco, like Cartizze, Rive, Valdobbiadene, Asolo, and also Prosecco DOC. Okay. And we do all kinds of versions, so from extra brut to the dry version in different way, like biologic, organic, vegan, and also kosher. But also, like you maybe hear sometime recently, there is the new Prosecco DOC Rosé that is made also by 85% of Glera and 15% of Pinot Noir.
Okay.
I was not aware.
I was not aware that the Prosecco now is going to move in the rosé section. You mentioned something that's interesting to me. Like you spoke about different varieties and different denominations. Is there a way for us that we are overseas to understand the differences? Because sometimes it's really confusing. Like, what's the difference between a DOCG and a DOC? Because we get that on the label over here. We don't understand what's the real value. It's just a piece of paper for us. So what's the big difference if you can do that?
Yes, so the main difference is the production area. The Prosecco DOC is coming from flat land and is produced in a large area between Veneto and Friuli Venezia Giulia for a total production of 24,000 hectares and more or less 500 million bottles. And it is a wine that is made by machine. I mean, the harvest is did by machine. So the quality of this product is excellent, but the Valdobbiadene DOCG or the Asolo DOCG, the grapes coming from the hillside, so more or less between 200 and 500 meters, where the soil, the terroir, and the climate are particular, give to the wine a good structure, a good minerality, a good sapidity, that make the wine premium category. And also here in Valdobbiadene, in the hillside, the harvest is only did by hand, and yeah, it's very complicated to work on this area. That's why we need also more hours to work on it. So these are the main difference of the two areas. And of course, you can understand better with a tasting. You have both glasses. You can taste the difference, the floral notes, the fruity notes of the Valdobbiadene DOCG or Asolo wine. In Italy, like in Europe, to produce organic wine, it is necessary to follow a good number of rules in the vineyards, but also in the cellar, in order to keep the final product as pure as possible. That means free from the influence of potentially harmful chemical pesticides, fertilizer, herbicides, and fungicides. For example, for the fertilization of the land, we use organic fertilizer like copper, sulfur, or plant extract. And also we help each other with using biological control. So we all use natural operation. In the cellar, we limited the use of sulfides. For example, in the organic, maximum is 150 milligram per liter against the 210 used in the conventional wines. Another point that I want to add is the meaning of vegan wine. It means that we don't use any animal additive in the winemaking process, most used for technical process during the fermentation, the clarification, the filtration process. And these ingredients, like coming from animal, is like casein, albumin, eggs, or milk. And so for produce a vegan wine, we can replace it with vegetable yeast. So this is important to know. Today we are talking about Asolo, our Asolo Bioldo, that is an extra dry. So the most traditional version, a wine for all occasion, actually. It is excellent as an aperitif with cicchetti, that is the typical Venetian finger food, but is in the kitchen that it reveal its true splendor. And so I suggest you to try with seafood pasta and risotto, that is special, but also with fresh cheese and salami, because extra dry, it's the wine for aperitif. So in Italy, normally we use salami, cheese, and finger food to enjoy the wine with friends.
Perfect. And I have a question now. Do organic producers use copper in the vineyards?
Yes, yes. This is one of the practice used for keep control the vineyard and the grapes. Yeah, it's very important. Yeah.
Perfect. That was the question. Okay. Do you want to show us what you are before we go on with the presentation? What do you think?
Yeah, just a minute. I turn in the camera. Do you see? Do you see?
I do.
Okay. So this is Valdobbiadene. So there is a little bit foggy, but you can see maybe the shape of our grapes. And wait a moment. So here I'm in the middle of the vineyards. Today is 3 degrees. It's a little bit cold, but fortunately I took with me a bottle of Bioldo and a glass. So I will drink with you and make a cheers, if you let me. Just a second. Okay. So if you are ready, we can make a cheers all together.
In 1 second, I have to get my wine. 1 second, I'm not ready.
Okay.
That's amazing, people. Australia, Italy. We are doing a cheers. And it has 3 degrees, and we had 40 today.
Yeah, very lucky. Of course, we are envious. So I wish you a good summer and a good evening with Simone.
Thank you. And food doesn't have the Prosecco. All the other wines are good too. Don't worry. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefano. And if you want to stay longer with us, unless if you have things to do, probably business stuff to do, you're free.
Thank you very much. Have a good time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Perfect. And now we are going to move in the cheese. What's the cheese that we're going to have from Veneto is the Montasio. Montasio is a pasture-raised cow milk cheese. It's a semi-hard cheese, and it's cooked curd, and a piece of Veneto too. Originally, the Montasio area, it's the Montasio range that is in the Friuli, nearby the Alps. And the cheese has an average aging that goes from 2 to 10 months. Can be even older than that. The cheese was produced and is still produced partially from the milk coming from the Alps, where the shepherds that were doing a transhumance. And originally, the recipes of making this cheese have been preserved from the monks located in the area. So now I would like to know from you, what do you think about this cheese and especially this one made? I would like to know from you. Sorry, now I'm going to put you back on perfect. That's it. I would like to know, what do you think it would be the right match for this wine with the cheese? So what do you think is going to be the best match? It's going to work well with the Tour. It's going to work well with the Taleggio, the Montasio, Moliterno, Gorgonzola. Let's see if somebody's going to say something. Oh, everybody's munching now. What's happening? Yeah, now everybody's like, it's testing stuff. To me, with the cheeses and the wine, the Prosecco itself had a little bit of struggle with Latour. Latour, even though it's a soft cheese and white skin, has much more intensity than the Prosecco. While with the Taleggio, the balance was kind of okay, even though you were having to have Taleggio without the crust. And generally, Taleggio should be consumed with the crust. The third one, the match with Prosecco and Montasio, still okay, but not perfect. The Montasio will probably need more sweetness. The perfect match, to me, it was with the Moliterno. Moliterno, it's a hard cheese, and because of that, close by very intensely to the Prosecco, a good greasiness, a good minerality that counterbalance the sweetness or the aromaticity from the Prosecco, from the Glera variety, having minerality and intensity at a good level with a complex softness and aromaticity. Obviously, Prosecco and blue cheese did not work at all. Now, are you ready for the next region? Let's go.
Lombardy, a fascinating history-laden region. Glaciers, green parks, great lakes. Stelvio National Park which Lombardy shares with the provinces of Trento and Bolzano, features lush forests, as well as rare plants and animal species. Val Camonica comprises several peaks over 3,000 meters high. Milano, the capital of Italian fashion. Preserves mementos of the past, which merge with an economic and industrial present. Via Monte Napoleone is the city's showcase, with its luxurious exclusive shops. The Duomo, with its elegant spires, is decorated with over 3,400 statues and symbolizes the city. The awe-inspiring Prosecco Castle, Santa Maria delle Grazie church houses in its refectory one of art history's most notable frescoes, Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. Sant'Ambrogio, the city's patron saint, is the dedicatee of a Romanic basilica. Vittorio Emanuele II Gallery, considered the city's salon, spectacularly connects Piazza del Duomo and Piazza della Scala with its celebrated theatre, a proper worldwide temple of opera. Bergamo preserves traces of its Roman origins, as well as splendid buildings from medieval and Renaissance times. Piazza del Duomo, in an enchanting sheltered space, houses the city's best-known monuments. Mantova, Virgil's birthplace, was the Shakespearean Romeo's refuge. Piazza Sordello, dominated by the Palazzo Ducale complex, is enclosed by the Duomo's 18th century facade. The charming Piazza Broletto and the nearby Piazza delle Erbe. Brescia, which poet Giosuè Carducci commemorated in his famous poem, features one of Italy's most outstanding Renaissance piazzas. Cremona, its superb Duomo, is one of Italy's most important religious buildings. And the Torrazzo, the city's tall bell tower. Stendhal defined it as Milan's Versailles. Varese houses the Estense Palace with its magnificent park. Como and its lake provide a magical backdrop for Manzoni's The Betrothed, with enchanting villas and breathtaking scenery. Villa Melziderile, Villa Carlotta, Villa Monastero, Villa Erbo was the prestigious residence of film director Luchino Visconti. On the other part of Lake Como, Lecco with its Ponte Vecchio, which crosses over the Adda River. Lombardy, with its scents and flavors, has a sapid, tasty cuisine. Risotto allo zafferano, cotoletta alla milanese, the world-famous panettone and torrone, ever present during Christmas celebrations in Italy. Lombardy. Its tall alpine peaks, great lakes, powerful nature, and cities rich in art and history.
Here we are. Let's come back over here. So, Lombardy region. Let's speed up a little bit. Located in north center of the Italian peninsula, if you want to say. There's 10 million people living over there, which is the region with higher population on Italy. It's the center of the industrial, majority of the industrial area is located in Lombardy and other close by Veneto and Piedmont, but it has on its own 1/5 of the Italian GDP. Curious thing is that the region was populated from the Lombards. Lombards that were coming from Germany, and it came along in I think in 500 after Anno Domini, fighting with the Byzantine Empire. One of the crazy things is that actually during a span of 200 years, the Lombards had the control of a majority of the Italian peninsula. Okay, let's speak about wine. So the wine that we had in the degustation was the Curtefranca Bianco, Ricci Curbastro. Curtefranca Bianco is coming from the Curtefranca DOCG, which is really tiny in comparison to the Prosecco one. Just a total number of 874,000 bottles produced. Not sure if it's the last number, but and they produce using international varieties. So classic Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, a little bit of Malbec, a little bit of Pinot Noir. Close by, or actually in the same size but separated, there is the Franciacorta, which is well known in Italy and still struggling but starting to be more known overseas as a classic method sparkling wine. But we're going to speak about the white wine for today. It is produced nearby the Garda Lake, at the bottom of the Garda Lake. So it's a Chardonnay, 80%, and 20% is Pinot Bianco. Pardon. Okay, this is a wine that I would use with, again, with fishes. I will use with creamy pasta. I was expecting a sort of fruity aromaticity coming from the Chardonnay. And I will maybe be tried just a little bit more, having some, like for instance, the saltfish pan-fried. A little bit of flour, a little bit of butter, pan-fried, or in this case, probably a good match with cheeses. Now, if you have seen the previous experience, so now you want to think, if I have the Curtefranca, where is the right match with the cheeses? That's really curiosity. Okay, now we have an opportunity over here, which is similar to the previous one. I would like to call in Gilberto. Gilberto, you still there?
Here we are, Simone.
Hello, how's it going? So another job. This time we are going to see Lombardy. We are close by, between Brescia and Bergamo. By the way, I'm from Bergamo. I was when the video showed that, but you couldn't see me anyway. So let's start with, unfortunately, we have a natural product. Fortunately, we have a natural product over here. And when I opened the bottle last night, I found a couple of defects. So because of that, I couldn't go on with the wine testing. So would you be able to do the wine testing with us instead of doing that? Perfect.
I have my glass here with me.
Perfect, you have your glass.
And I have the bottle here with me as well.
Also the bottle. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, of course. That's where the wine is coming from. Well, my suggestion is, first of all, to let brief a little bit this wine. We are talking about a vintage 2018, so it's a wine which has been in the bottle for almost a year and a half so far. And especially for this product, which is, as you would see, an organic and sustainable wine, we choose since a couple of years to use those which we call technical corks, But actually it's an interesting cork for us because it's a cork which is 100% produced from sugar cane. So it's not plastic, even though it's a polymer from plastic, but it's coming naturally from sugar cane. What is the advantage? That this cork is completely 100% carbon footprint free, but on the other side, it's a cork which is giving a lot of reduction to the wine. So especially when you just open the bottle, really need to breathe for couple, but even would be greater 5-10 minutes in your glass in order to express all of the aromas of this wine. When we talk about Curtefranca, as Simone said, this is a small DOC, which is set in a region of Italy which is called Franciacorta. Franciacorta is in Italy, and we are trying also worldwide to be famous for classic method sparkling wine, so Champenoise method. I should correct Simone because we are south of Lake Iseo. It's much smaller than Lake Garda, not so well known. But
okay, pardon.
but is one of the 4th lake of Lombardy, and Curtefranca is the DOC, so the denomination that we use for the still wine, which are traditional as well of the region and the production. Consider that we use international grapes varieties, so Chardonnay and Pinot Bianco, but those international grape varieties actually came in Franciacorta, so in our land, over 1,000 years ago. We go back to the 12th centuries, when these grapes were quite probably brought in the region from the Cluniacense monks coming from Cluny, so from the Burgundy area where the Pinot are originally from. So even though those are international varieties, are extremely typical right now of our region. What to expect from a Curtefranca? This is a blend of 60% Chardonnay and 40 Pinot Bianco. So the aromatic, the freshness and the aromatic part from the Chardonnay is always coming out, so with some definitely some fruitiness, which should bring you to the kind of citric notes, even in the nose. So something which should remind you orange lemon taste. And in the mouth, you will always find quite high acidity in our wines. As you will see, the alcohol level, it's always between 11.5 12 alcohol degrees. So we don't have wines with high alcohol, but mostly this freshness and acidity which is coming by. So in the mouth, something which should really clean your taste, your palate having this minerality coming by. And as Simone said, the pairing should be perfect with entry with a first meal like pasta, some creaminess into that, and that is also a reason why we should easily pair with a cheese as well, because of course you have fattiness, you have this richness in the cheese that should be well cleaned up by the wine. While the wine gonna breathe in your glass and you will have the chance to taste into his evolution, what I would like to highlight is a little bit of information about us. Ricci Curbastro is a family-owned estate, so I do represent the 18th generation of the family in the business, so a quite long history going back in the past, going back to the 14th century. We have always been a family of farmers, wine producer. Consider that our oldest label that we still keep in our wine museum, in our cellar, goes back to 1885. So this tradition is pretty old, and this tradition is also well represented on our labels, because on the name Ricci Curbastro is our surname, and the image that you see on the label, that is our family coat of arms, which are two hedgehogs, which in Italian is Ricci. So this is the meaning of the Italian word Ricci, are the two porcupine, the two hedgehogs, below an oak tree, which probably is the origin of Curbastro, which come from quercus in Latin. The approach of the cellar, which is one, as I said, of the oldest in the region, is today an approach towards organic and sustainable viticulture. You see that this wine is both certified as an organic wine, which we started farming organic our vineyards in 2018, but is also certified as sustainable. I like to highlight that the sustainability is a proper certification for us. So we go through a process of control of what we do, and actually every year we publish a report which is public. It's on our website. It's also in English. So if you're curious about what we do about sustainability, you can easily read it. And tells all of the attention that we put into the environment. So sustainability today is not just organic farming, is biodiversity, is taking care of the carbon footprint of the seller. But today sustainability is also an economical approach, so numbers and data, and most of all an ethical approach. Consider that in Franciacorta, in our region, the harvest has to be done by hand. So we want to be sure that the people who come for the harvest are treated in the right way, that every stakeholder is took in consideration in the right way. So this is today our wide approach to sustainability.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for being with us tonight or today. And again, if you want to stay with us for longer, cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Have a great day in Italy, and I'm looking to come back and again have a taste.
We wait for you when travel will be possible again.
Yes, exactly. Ciao.
Ciao, grazie.
Perfect. And now we're speaking about the cheese, taleggio DOP. So taleggio is a soft cheese, is a wash rind, and then it generally does aging that goes around 32 days. So what's the curiosity about? First of all, it should be produced in Bergamo province, where I'm from, and specific is coming from the Val Taleggio Valley. However, now the production of the cheese is expanded in a couple of regions, Lombardy and Piedmont. Why? Because obviously in this globalized world, we need to produce enough product to fulfill the requirements of the planet. And because of that, we need to improve the size of this production. The name of the taleggio, it's come from the valley, but the type of cheese is called stracchino. Stracchino, as I said before, is a word that was used in the Longobards language to define something tired. Why? Because they were using the milk of these cows coming after the transhumans. They were tired. They were producing less. They were not moving much. And that's the word of stracchino, and then why stracchino was named after. A curiosity about the wash rind. So a wash rind is when you have a curd, of the milk. You have coagulation of the casein protein inside, depends the temperature, depends the acidity, depends enzyme. You change the consistency of this curd. When you take it out from the container, you actually lose 80% of the weight, but you have this coagulated product. What do? You put inside in shape, but what do you want to do? You want to preserve the product. So to do that, you have to build up the rind. The rind is the skin of the cheese. So a lot of cheeses, the one that we find in supermarket, they don't have rind. Why? Really simple, because rind is generally thrown away. People doesn't want it. It's easy to have a big thing, cut in pieces, put in a plastic package. But the original cheeses, they have rind because it was protecting cheese for a long time. The rind depends what the cheese you want to have. Like you can have a look, for instance, the pecorino di Moliterno, you will see the skin, it's kind of orangey, and then it's different to the taleggio one. Why? Because during the process of aging, they've been sponging cheese with water and salt. Why? Because if you don't do that, what's going to happen? That the cheese gets hard. It starts to dry. It dries out. So keeping sponging the cheese and flipping the cheese and sponging again, they not just kept the added salt to the cheese, giving flavor, and we have to remember that salt was not used just to give flavor. Salt was used for preserve the cheese, because the level of salt in the product were killing bacteria. So there are a lot of things behind that we are used to have, but reality is that they are done for a different purpose. So doing that, you have the soft cheese washed rind. And after they were keeping sponging the skin of this cheese with brine. Why? Because doing so, they were keeping the cheese moist, soft, but also keep adding salt in it. Why salt? Salt because simply help to protect the cheese from molds, bacteria, and possible animals that they want to come and munch on it. That is how the wash rind came alive. Now, the producer, and I'm kind of proud to say that, the producer for tonight is Vivaldi, and it's still producing in the Val Taleggio. The use of Taleggio, well, Taleggio is a cheese that easily can be used in different ways. Cooking with polenta can be served on its own, like tonight, as a cheese. You can make a risotto with Taleggio, for instance. You can pair with pears, or because it's soft cheese, you can make stews with Taleggio. You can melt it in a soup. There are many different ways to use Taleggio. The next one is Gorgonzola. What's Gorgonzola is? A curiosity is a Gorgonzola, it's still a stracchino. So the same concept. And it's coming, the same producer, is a semi-soft, pasteurized cow milk, raw curd, so low temperature curd, blue cheese. Where the blue cheese come from, there are some histories behind, some myths behind that. During the cheese making process, there were some molds. They were entering inside in the cheese, and then they were reproducing themselves, creating these veins, blue veins. So they are called the Bacillus roquefortis. And the story says that the milk that was milked in the evening, it was left aside. It was starting to acidify on its own, and then the milk the day after in the morning was put together. But because the two curd, one had already a sort of consistency, different consistency than the new milk, they were not matching together, they were not blending together. And then these mold have been growing in between these two curds. That's why it's called, or it was called, the two pastes. This is a cheese that depends what the variety cheese you want to have. It can be a soft, sweet, it has 2 months of aging. It can be also you want to say spicy or picante, that has more than 3 months of aging. This is the region where it should be produced, in Milan, Provence, and is now produced in the whole Lombardy, and I think a little bit of Piedmont too. That's how you see, when they make Gorgonzola, what they do, they make holes inside in the curd. Why? Because doing so, they allow the oxygen, the air, to enter the cheese. And when you have air, you have mold proliferation. And that's why you can see, for instance, here these line of the milling, the way of punching the cheese. Okay. Anybody want to tell me what do you think about the match with white, the Ricci Curbastro white? What could be the right match? And you have to tell me that, because I can't do that for the product that I have. So go with that. Oh, somebody said Gorgonzola. Unbelievable. Yeah. Keep going. Who else? Taleggio. We are playing in house. I could say that. Yeah. What else? Okay, silence. Well, in the same time, we can keep going. So are you ready for the next region? Let's go. Where are we going? We're going in Piedmont.
Piedmont is set between the Alps and the Apennines in northwestern Italy. The Po, Italy's longest river, has its sources in Monviso in the Piemontese province of Cuneo. The Gran Paradiso National Park, which partly belongs to Val d'Aosta, provides an ideal habitat for many forms of animal life, plants and flowers. Piedmont is characterized by wide-ranging lakes such as Lake Maggiore with the Borromean Islands, which house superb Italian-style gardens and luxurious palaces, and Lake Orta, which features an ancient basilica in the Isle of San Giulio. Besides extensive rice cultivation, Piemonte offers a wealth of history and artworks. Castles, churches, villages, patrician villas. The Stupinigi Royal Hunting Residence, a celebration of the Rococo style, with its refined park. Racconigi Castle, a residence of rare beauty. The noble Piemontese cities cherish invaluable artworks and celebrated history-laden palaces. Torino, the ancient capital of the Sabaudian kingdom. The medieval Palazzo Madama, whose lavish Baroque facade was completed in 1721 by the noted architect Filippo Giuvara. The royal palace, built between 1646 and 1660, is considered one of the most luxurious European royal palaces. The Mole Antonelliana is dedicated to King Vittorio Emanuele II and is the city's symbol, the present site of the National Museum of Cinema. The enchanting Valentino Park and Castle, the Egyptian Museum, the most important collection in the world after the Cairo Museum. Palazzo Carignano with its Baroque splendor, first seat of Parliament after the Italian unification. The Holy Shroud, one of Christianity's most important relics, is housed in Torino's Duomo and is visited by pilgrims from all over the world. Asti, known as the City of 100 Towers with its 14th century cathedral, and the Collegiata di San Secondo. A short distance away on the hillside, in a scenic position, the Madonna di Via Tosto Church, dated 1350. Cuneo, on a high terrace, overlooks the valley surrounding it. Novara, with San Gaudenzio Cathedral's towering cupola, a masterpiece conceived by the notable architect Alessandro Antonelli. Alessandria was built on the shore of the Tanaro River. Palazzo degli Orologi with its famous clock dials. Santa Maria del Castello Church stands in the heart of Rovereto, Alessandria's primitive nucleus. Santa Maria del Carmine Church, and San Pietro Apostolo Cathedral. Vercelli, Sant'Andrea Church, town symbol and Italy's first example of Gothic architecture. Piemonte is also famous for its well-organized, world-famous ski resorts, charming traditional feasts, such as Asti's Palio, which dates back to the 13th century and takes place in September. Piemese cuisine is both tasty and refined. Agnolotti del Plin, taglierini al ragù, grissini, truffle. Well known for its sweets and wine, Baci di Dama, Ladies' Kisses, Palanza Amaretti, and the grandiose Barolo wine, to mention a few. Piemonte, an enchanting region which offers uncontaminated nature and elegantly hospitable cities.
And here we are in Piedmont. Piedmont is located in north-west of the Italian peninsula. The region has around 4.3 million of inhabitants. Now, what I was saying before in terms of connection with the cuisine and the history of the region. And over here, we have a really interesting step, because if I have to speak about Piedmont, I have to speak about the Duchy of Savoy. This Duchy of Savoy, it was a duchy, obviously, located in the Savoy region in France, that growing up and acquiring, expanding, I can say, they enter a little bit in Piedmont, they conquered Piedmont, and then with different words, they had Sicily for a little bit, then they had Sardinia, that it was given to them from the Aragon kingdom, so the Spanish kingdom, and then they worked together with Napoleon. Yeah, that's what I was saying before. They worked together with Napoleon to fight against the Austro-Hungaric Empire in order to conquer more about Italy. And then they gave the Savoy to France. In the same time, they unified the Italy itself as kingdom, and they became the Italian royal family. And that's why when you go in Piedmont and you taste some of the cuisine, you have a bit of influence of the French cuisine, but on the way around too. Now, what's the wine that we're going to taste for tonight from Piedmont? We have the Dolcetto di Dogliani. Dolcetto, it's a local variety that you want to say that it was the first record of the variety are around 1600 Anno Domini. However, the Dolcetto have been grown in the area since the Roman time. So in the area, the DOCG itself is pretty small. If you are curious about, the close by ones are the Barolo and Barbaresco, which are probably the most important DOCG in Piedmont. The Gemme and Gattinara, which they were the following one, a little bit aside. Just to have an idea, that red dot on the map, it's actually the whole area where we produce wine in Piedmont. These are the Langes, just to understand where the varieties, the grapes are located. They're located on the hills, which generally is considered a high quality area where produce wine. Something that is interesting to know also is that the Dolcetto di Dogliani is located pretty south, close by the Apennines. The Apennines, they're leaving from France, they're going through piece of Piedmont and Liguria, and they go down in the spine of the Italian peninsula. What's the difference? Obviously, that area is cooler, and because of that, the grapes have different textures or different characteristics. Dolcetto itself is not an easy variety to work with, especially in that area, because it has a lot of tannin. More tannins actually than the Nebbiolo. If you do a little bit more maceration in contact with the skin, then you have wines that they are impossible to match. They are really aggressive, if you want to say, really strong. So let's have a look to the wine. I will say this is a Suridimut Anna Maria Bona. It's a small winery that is produced from a vineyard that is 45 years old. The harvest is manual and stained steel. So the production is stained steel, which means it doesn't do any aging in barrel. So we have a little bit of jam, a little bit of plum jam, a little bit of red flowers, a little bit of black pepper, subtle black pepper. So the match for this wine, well, this is, considering the tannin, not the level of alcohol, it works really well with a juicy food. You could have a stew. Generally, I say, considering the intensity, I say a goulash, even though the goulash is not really characteristic from Piedmont. But so people work really well. Cured meat could work really well. Even if you want to work with something aromatic, like you could have something wrapped in pancetta, because you need to have greasiness. We have a good minerality, we have a good tannin and a medium acidity. You want to have a greasiness and you want to have aromaticity inside, so you need to intense. There are some rolls with the small birds, for instance, that you can roll in that, and then they can be baked in the oven, and they have this kind of, or even a normal roll with some yeast pancetta and some veggies rolled in pancetta, again, it could work. In case you don't want to go with that, you can still work with some braised beef. Let's speak about the Latour. Latour is, to me, in my opinion, an amazing cheese. It's really interesting. It's a 3-milk cheese produced in Piedmont. It's pasteurized, raw curd, and there is a little bit of Penicillium camemberti. That is not official. Somebody says it is, somebody else says it's not. I couldn't find any information about that. The company that's produced this is the Caseificio dell'Alta Langa. And one of the curiosities is that the wine that we're tasting tonight is produced from Azienda Agricola Anna Maria Bona, as I said, and the Caseificio, so the cheese that we are testing, it's produced from the Caseificio Alta Langa, which is 32 kilometers away from each other.
I'm gonna send you up. Do you think it works well with the tour? Now, I'm gonna give you a secret. If you wanna taste and understand, Cucuma with the Moliterno. Okay, okay. So I give you a secret. If you wanna taste and match, the best easy way to do it, get a piece of the cheese, put it in your mouth, and a drinking glass about the cheese. You get a sip of wine, munch it, and then you see what's the outcome. Look, to me, with the tour is above this one. It just comes out. You have the acidity, you have the minerality, it just comes out. This wine disappears almost completely. Now, try it with the taleggio. Have a try, but remember, do not use the cracker. The cracker are lovely, but they are a game that we do after. Get a little bit of taleggio in your mouth, a little bit of dolcetto, staying at the same level. The only thing is you have a hint of bitterness coming out from the dolcetto.
The Montasio had a little bit of lack of softness. It's interesting because Montasio is a semi-hard, they should work better, but the reality is that the creaminess in taleggio made the dolcetto be more quiet and soft, while the Montasio instead had this young, crispy, a little bit of acidity. For the people that doesn't know about, it's really interesting to watch the Montasio, see the Montasio itself, because it has little dots inside, little bubbles. Those bubbles are created from the lactic fermentation. So it's acids fermenting the sugar, which are making bubbles inside in the cheese and creating this. When you taste this kind of cheeses, you have an extra level of acidity inside in the cheese that doesn't work well with acid products. So wine, obviously, is one of those, unless it's lower acidity. The Moliterno was enough, I can say, but still we have the bitterness coming out. And again, the blue cheese did not work really well with this wine. Are you ready for the next region? And by the way, let me know what you think about it. Let's go.
Sardinia is the second largest Italian island, located 12 kilometers away from Corsica and 120 kilometers away from the Tuscan coast. It is situated at the center of the Mediterranean Sea. The island is justly famous for the extreme beauty of the crystal clear sea which encircles it, where the deep aquamarine blue merges with emerald green and the sand's pearl white candor. However, Sardinia does not only have a breathtaking coast, the region's evocative charm is heightened by the varied scenery in the island, from rocky mountains to stone-floored plateaus. Sardinia is an ancient region whose past can be traced thanks to the mementos left by conquerors of different origins who dominated the island over the centuries. One of Sardinia's attractions is the Maddalena archipelago. It's constituted by 7 islands, the largest of which are Maddalena and Caprera. The latter is famous for being the place where Giuseppe Garibaldi lived and was buried. There are also many uninhabited, uncontaminated islands, among which the extraordinary beauty of Budelli is celebrated for its pink sandy beach. Facing the archipelago is the rocky Gallura, where the wind-beaten rocks have been forged into striking animal shapes. On the Emerald Coast, considered to be one of the most glamorous sites in the Mediterranean, harbours are at the centre of all activity. Portocervo, the international jet-set paradise, is a hotspot around the clock. Porto Rotondo, another pearl on the coast, has been famous since the 60s. Its piazzetta is the habitués' meeting point. However, the Emerald Coast does not only offer worldly pleasures, it is also full of small beaches, solitary inlets set amidst jutting promontories, wind-forged rocks of all shapes, used as living quarters since the 18th century, which go by the name of taffoni. Cagliari, on the southern coast of the island, is the foremost city. The seafront overlooks the ever-expanding harbour, which plays a very important economic role. Among the Roman remains is the amphitheatre, which was excavated in the rocks. While the remarkable Pisani Towers are an example of medieval architecture, and the cathedral dedicated to St. Mary, Queen of the Sardinians in the Castello district betrays Spanish origins. Sassari, set in the calcareous plain which dips down to the Asinara Gulf, began as a small town in the past, but it soon developed into an active centre for commercial activities. The city is the seat of the oldest university in Sardinia. It has a striking Duomo at the heart of the historical centre of the city, which was built over a 12th century Romanic parish church and is a proper mosaic of antiquities. Sardinia is both tradition and folklore. Customs, dances, music and songs express an orally transmitted culture, which makes Sardinians particularly proud of their heritage and their origins. Like the spectacular Sartilia, an equestrian carousel which marks the yearly carnival celebrations in Oristano. Sardinian cuisine is characterized by its agricultural pastoral origins, which thrive on genuine flavors, such as the richly original cheeses, the sedas, as well as other sweets made with almonds and honey. A central role in the local cuisine is held by roasted, spicy meat. Regional products such as botarga and lobsters. In Sardinia, nature added an extra bonus by giving it a uniquely colored sea, as if to demonstrate its creative power. Spellbinding inlets, unusually shaped cliffs, an inviolate sea floor, all of which surprise visitors with a kaleidoscope of unforgettable experiences.
Here we are in Sardinia. Sardinia is the second big island in Italy. It has no more than 1.6 million of inhabitants. Sardinia is one of the biggest touristic regions in Italy. I love Sardinia. I've been over there many times. It's one of my favorite places, and the people have been living in Sardinia for a long time, starting from the Neolithic. There are some buildings over there they call the nuraghi, that they are considered to be built 18th century before Christ, which is really interesting how they build them, and they are still there. So Sardinia had a history of conquer. The Sardinian people have seen itself try to be conquered many times from Romans, from many different populations, from the Vandals to the only state, the only kingdom that had the chance to put everything together in Sardinia. They were the Aragon kingdom, which, as I said before, it was from Spain. The flag you see at the moment is the Sardinian flag that is showing the 4 Saracens that were fought from the Spanish kingdom in Spain during the Crusades. So Sardinia had been conquered and unified under the Sardinian kingdom from under the Aragon crown, and it's interesting because when you visit Sardinia, especially in the southwest of the island, you will find the cities that they have a really strong connection with Spain. So, for instance, there is one that is called Iglesias. That is a city called Iglesias. Iglesias obviously means church, and that's the beauty of Italy. What I have to say regarding the cuisine, and that is really interesting, is that Sardinia is not a fish island. It's amazing how the traditional cuisine is not related with fishery. There is one specific motive. The island was under constant attack. So always were trying to conquer the island. So people was not living on the coasts. They were living inside in the island to be protected. That's why you have a porcheddu, which is roasted pork, you have cheeses, because people was moving inside. It was more difficult to go over there, and they were having sheep or goats, all these kind of animals. There were animals that were able to live in that harsh environment. During the conquer of Italy, the Aragon family has given to the Savoyards, the Savoy family, the Sardinia, that became the Sardinian kingdom with a piece of Piedmont, and from there we moved in the Italian unification. We have to remember Italy, it was unified as a kingdom in 1861, and for 80 years Italy was a kingdom. Now the wine for tonight. So the wine from Sardinia in this case is a Moscato. So the Moscato di Sardegna, it is a DOC that was established in 1979, and it covers the whole Sardinian region. So this is a regional DOC. It's like Sicily, for instance. They were, in my opinion, not the best quality, because everything can be under the same DOC, the same denomination, but they were designed because obviously in worldwide, you need to help people to understand really well where things they are coming. So having a DOC name under the region, it's simplified for the international customer to understand where the product comes from. Now, the Moscato di Sardegna DOC has a couple crus. One is Gallura, and the other one is Tempio Pausania. The producer for tonight, it's the Cantine di Dolianova, and that is located nearby Cagliari. So this is a Moscato, is a white variety, it's aromatic variety, 14%, with no irrigation and natural sweet wine. There is a lot to say about this. So as you used to, Australian wine, South Australian wine are sweet wines are generally made stopping the fermentation of the wine and then preserving the amount of sugar. So what it means, you have low level of alcohol, high level of sweetness with a high level of acidity. Sometimes yes, some other times not, but this is the general sweet wine. However, this one, Moscato di Sardegna, is a natural wine. And what it means? It means that the wine that is produced having a normal fermentation, natural fermentation, yeast should eat all the sugar inside in the wine. But because the amount of sugar is higher than the amount of sugar that the yeast they can eat, you still have sweet wine, which means that these grapes are really, really full of sugar. And that is correlated with the fact that there is no irrigation. Now, let's speak before the match. Let's speak about the Moliterno cheese. So Moliterno, it's a hard cheese, and it's originally from Basilicata, which is not in Sardinia. It's produced with sheep milk, not always 100%. Sometimes it's 80% sheep and 20% goat or other type of milks. It's cooked curd and hard cheese, as I said a second ago. So cooked curd means that it's simply increase the temperature of the curd. The producer is called Centro, and the interesting fact about Centro is that they moved from Basilicata almost 100 years ago, and they moved in Sardinia looking for products, looking for milk. They moved over there, they found the right environment, and they began producing over there. The Moliterno EGP, which is a cheese traditionally produced in Basilicata, is, as you can see, Basilicata, it's over there, is not in Sardinia, has the characteristic to be aged in Moliterno. So EGP means Indicazione Geografica Protetta. It means that it generally was produced over there, but not with products or ingredients coming all from there. So what they do in Moliterno, they simply do the aging of the cheese. These producers, Centro producer, is the only producer in Sardinia that is allowed to produce the Moliterno because it's recognized to be historically correlated with Basilicata because the owner of the company, they are from that specific area. And it is a canestrato. What it means canestrato? Canestrato is simply a way to dry the curd. They put it in the basket and they let it dry. And that is why it's canestrato, because the shape of the skin, the cheese skin, it looks like a basket. Now you can see in the picture.
We'll go with the Moscato. Who's thinking what's the best match? Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Come on, 3, 1, 4, 5. Okay, the easy way is just to try the blue cheese. It's probably the first best match. Blue cheese, okay, we didn't test it before. Good minerality, classic, bit of creaminess, nuttiness too. You added a little bit of Moscato. Okay, I still have the Moscato. I have the aromaticity of the Moscato. Bit of bitterness, minerality from the blue cheese. They are at the same level. Lucky because the alcohol and the sweetness, you counterbalance the bitterness of the cheese. You still have minerality. Now, for who can, I'm gonna advise you, try this thing. Get a bit of blue cheese, a bit of Moscato, get 1 almond, and a little bit of apricot. You get the Moscato, connect with the almond, and the apricot connect with the blue cheese, but at the same level. I have more sultana. Now, between all the matches I've been doing so far, one that is correct, technically, where wine and cheese all together, they get a better level, is the Moscato with the blue cheese. All the others, they were samples to try the differences between different wines. Obviously, I really enjoyed the Prosecco, for instance, with the Moliterno. And the Dolcetto to me worked really well with Taleggio. But the one that paired the best is the Moscato with the blue cheese. But I have to say that the Moscato works well with almost all of them. Latour, yep. Taleggio, to me, the Taleggio is missing a little bit of intensity. The Montasio, I found that with the Montasio, I found a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of ice cream vanilla, but it was a little bit too intense. The Moliterno was not working together, it was a little bit separated, and then the blue cheese is perfect.
And with this, I would like to thank Bottega Rotolo that has provided these cheeses to us available at the right time. I would like to thank also Terra Mia with Romolo Ponticello that has been giving us the wines and also have been helping me to do the deliveries. And Radio Italia Uno Adelaide, which has been really helpful to they provided their availabilities to organize the event that unfortunately didn't work physically because the COVID limitation, but they were really helpful and they helped to promote the experience, sharing with how many people they could, and the house of the bride. So Josie and Anton, that they were happy to share their skills in creating the right, proper environment for the event that again, it didn't work on live. The event went just online for COVID. But I would like just to mention them because they were really generous, they were really keen to help us to create this event. We have to remember that for also the importers is that having products available to an experience like this, it takes time and money. They take the responsibility and the risk that these products, they are not going to be sold, and then when they are not, they go off. That because they are natural products. So a big shout out for them. They go and visit and taste and learn more from them too. I would like to thank the Italian Consulate, obviously, because it was sponsored for this experience and has provided its support too. But also would like to thank the Italian National Tourism Board, with Emanuele that has provided the promotional products, promotional materials that you've been watching on the video, but also you've been receiving at home tonight. To finish with, I would like to thank these beautiful animals that they've been with us for a long time in our history, and they provide these products. They made us survive, live well, and have experiences like this tonight. To finish with the grape, which is a motive why tonight we had the opportunity to taste the products that are coming from this plant. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for staying with us. Please leave your comments below. If you had the opportunity to taste these wines, you know where you can find. If you did not have, see you the next time here on AgriAdventures. Have a great day.